My name is Hazel Whitmore. I'm 36 years old, a corporate attorney based in Atlanta, Georgia. My life used to revolve around two words: stable and secure. Or at least that's what I believed for the past 10 years, since the day I married the man I thought would be my strongest foundation. Jared Whitmore is a regional director for a major pharmaceutical company, a calm, resourceful man who always knew how to make everything look perfect from the outside. We met at a symposium in Houston. He approached me, slowly, deliberately, as if he knew exactly when to step forward and when to hold back. Everything between us unfolded so smoothly, I once wondered if fate was handing me a gift. We got married when I was 30. A simple wedding by Lake Tahoe, just close friends and family. I still remember the way he looked at me under the golden afternoon sun, warm, composed, and full of promise. 7 years passed and we built the kind of life people envy. A 2-story home in East Cobb, a new SUV, 2 golden retrievers, and summer vacations in Colorado. But what others saw was just the surface. About a year ago, I started noticing changes. At first, Jared came home late on Wednesday nights. Then, it became more frequent. He always had an excuse: strategy meetings, product launches, or simply, things are hectic lately. I believed him. I wanted to. I was too exhausted from long hours at the firm to question it. Some nights I sat in the kitchen under dim light until nearly midnight, convincing myself he was stuck in traffic or finishing a quarterly report. But patience has a limit. One Friday night, after a full day in court, I came home and found his shirt draped over a chair, scented with a cologne I'd never smelled on him before. It was sweet, sharp, and far too youthful for a 43-year-old man. I asked about it. He smiled. "Oh, just trying something new. Don't like it?" I didn't answer. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a soda, and drank half the can, trying to swallow back the questions I wasn't sure I was ready to hear the answers to. A week later, I got a message from an old law school friend, Laura, who now works in the legal department at Jared's company. Her message was just one sentence. "Hazel, I know I probably shouldn't say anything, but I just saw Jared having dinner at Sky Terrace with a blonde. It wasn't you. They were sitting very close. Are you okay?" I read the message over and over in my car, parked outside the office. My heart didn't race, I didn't cry. What I felt was a terrifying hollowness, like every cell in my body had suddenly frozen. I replied, "Thank you. I guess I was more okay before reading that." Her name was Amelia. I found her file after secretly accessing Jared's laptop, a name that appeared way too often in internal emails, meeting invites, and Outlook calendars. Amelia Hart, new marketing associate from headquarters, 28, blonde, and a former fitness model. The kind of girl who knows how to smile at the right moment and call older men sir with a voice that makes your skin crawl. I met her once at last year's Christmas party. She told me my dress complimented my skin tone. Looking back, I think I smiled back at her. Probably the same way I smile at witnesses on the stand that I don't trust. I'm not someone who jumps to conclusions without proof, but I'm also not the kind of woman who closes her eyes when every instinct in her chest is screaming. After Laura's message, I started watching Jared like a stranger. The way he took calls in another room, the absence in his voice, the physical touch that slowly disappeared. Everything had a reason, and I was starting to understand it. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I went to Sky Terrace on a Wednesday evening right at 7 p.m. Jared had told me he had a meeting with the Savannah office. I ordered a glass of white wine and sat in the most discreet corner, where I could observe without being noticed. And then they walked in. Jared and Amelia. I had prepared myself. But seeing him place his hand on her back, whispering something that made her giggle, it still tightened my throat. She pulled her chair closer. Jared leaned in, smiling like he'd never heard the name Hazel. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't suspicion. It was betrayal, blatant, calculated, and cold enough to make me shiver. I left before they ordered. I didn't want rage to lead me. I needed him to say it first. 3 days later, after Jared finished his shower and was towel drying his hair in the bedroom, I sat at the edge of the bed, keeping my voice steady. "I saw Amelia at Sky Terrace last week." The towel slipped from his hand. His eyes froze for less than a second before darting away. Oh, I think you misunderstood something? No, I didn't. I saw you sitting with her, your hand on her back, and I remember she once said she loved cedarwood cologne, the one you suddenly started wearing. He laughed awkwardly and walked to the vanity, trying to dodge the conversation. Hazel, you know, this isn't as serious as it looks. She's just a coworker. Things between us have been distant lately. Since when? I asked, my tone sharp. Since I started working 70-hour weeks so you could invest in real estate? Or since you began deleting meetings from your Outlook calendar? He turned, caught off guard and frustrated. All right, you want honesty? We've been seeing each other. But I didn't plan it. It just happened. I stood up and looked him in the eye. Affairs don't just happen. You didn't trip and fall into her bed. You chose this over and over. Jared didn't respond, and I knew right then I'd reached the end of our marriage. I packed his things that weekend. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. The house belonged to both of us. But I stayed. Some things I wasn't ready to let go of yet. And some things he no longer deserved to keep. I thought that was the end. I thought I had already faced the worst of it. But 6 weeks later he came back. And not with an apology. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. Jared stood under the porch overhang, coat soaked, eyes staring at me with a mix of panic and hope. We need to talk, he said. I crossed my arms. We already did. There's nothing left. Hazel, he swallowed hard. Amelia's pregnant. 11 weeks. It's mine. I heard the rain behind me, felt my heartbeat pound like it wanted out of my chest, but my face stayed still. No anger, no sadness. Just a strange, bottomless quiet. Like I was seeing him from somewhere very far away. What did you come here for? I asked. Congratulations? Here is your original text translated into natural American English, following your instructions regarding currency, measurements, and time formatting. All content has been preserved without additions. You think I deserve to know? I nodded. No, for what? So I can keep watching you build the life you once promised to build with me? Just with someone else? Jared didn't answer. He stood there, motionless, like a statue. And I closed the door. That night, I lay on the couch in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting an amber hue on the wall. I stared at the ceiling, replaying our wedding vows in my head. For love, for trust, for a shared future. Each word now sounded like a cheap line from a bad play. No, I wasn't falling apart, I was waking up. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to face the truth. We began the divorce process in early October, at Jared's attorney's office in Midtown. I had everything ready. Asset documents, bank statements, even the texts he sent me during the entire affair. I wasn't going to fight with emotions. I wanted to finish this with clarity. Amelia came with Jared. She wore a tight-knit dress, her bump starting to show beneath a beige trench coat. She looked like she was heading to a photo shoot for a successful pregnant entrepreneur. When her eyes met mine, she gave a polite smile, but only for a split second. Throughout the meeting, something felt off. Amelia kept checking her phone. She didn't look at Jared while he spoke with the lawyer. Every time it buzzed, she glanced at it quickly, then set it face down on the table. At one point, she stepped out for nearly 5 minutes to take an urgent call. Jared's lawyer scratched his head and chuckled. Pregnancy tends to complicate everything a bit, right? But this wasn't just complicated. Something didn't add up. A few days later, while at the notary office to sign over some transfer documents, I ran into Daniel Sutter, Jared's college best friend and the best man at our wedding. He was the only one from Jared's circle who still checked in with me after everything happened. When he saw me, he looked like he wanted to say something, then hesitated. I nodded in greeting and was about to walk past when he called out in a low voice. Hazel, if you have a moment, I think there's something you should know. We stepped into a small coffee shop nearby. Daniel ordered an espresso, but didn't touch it. His hands trembled slightly as he stirred the already unsweetened drink. What is it? I asked, keeping my tone calm. He looked up, his eyes conflicted. I was involved with Amelia. Before she joined Jared's company, I froze. We met at a marketing conference in Nashville back in February. It started as a fling, but it lasted almost 3 months. Then she just vanished. Vanished? I echoed. No texts, no calls, no explanations. Then I saw a photo of her and Jared on LinkedIn. A few weeks later, Jared called to say, "Amelia's pregnant." I tightened my grip on the coffee cup. "Do you think the baby could be yours?" Daniel didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened his photo gallery. "She sent me an ultrasound once. I still have it. Because I didn't know what to do." He handed it to me. The caption below the image was like a cold blade. "Look closely. Forehead's totally yours. Let's hope the stubbornness skips." I looked up. "She knows Jared thinks the baby is his, right?" "She does. But she's never said anything clearly to either of us. With Jared it's vague. With me? She texts late at night, like she's holding on, but never confirms anything." Daniel showed me more texts, lines like, "I'm not sure things are going in the right direction. If it all blows up, do you think we'll be okay? Jared doesn't suspect anything. But I'm not sure." Then I stopped cold at the most recent message, sent just 2 nights ago. "Do you want to feel the first kick? It's strong, like that cup of coffee I spilled on your shirt." I sat there for half an hour, listening as Daniel explained everything, showing me photos and hotel receipts from Asheville, right around the time Amelia would have been in her first trimester. Everything lined up. This wasn't just infidelity. It was premeditated deception. As we left the cafe, I paused under the awning. Light rain was falling, warm drops touching my face. I knew I couldn't stay silent. Not for Jared's sake, but for the sake of the truth. No child deserves to grow up inside a lie. I picked up my phone and typed a single message to Jared. "When you're free, I need to talk. About Amelia. And the baby." Jared didn't reply right away. 2 days later he called back, voice tired. "Hazel, you said you wanted to talk. Can we just do it now?" "No," I replied. "I want to see you in person. No lawyers, no Amelia, just us." After a long pause, he agreed. We met at the coffee shop we used to love. Corner of Juniper. When I arrived, he was already there. No tie. No familiar smile. Probably because, for once, he wasn't in control. I opened my bag and set a file folder on the table. "This is the truth you never asked for but should have known before drawing up your new life with Amelia." Jared flipped through each page silently. Ultrasound with Amelia's note to Daniel, late-night texts, hotel bills, even a short video she had sent Daniel, whispering that the baby has his jawline. Halfway through, Jared froze. His hand clutched the edge of the table, his lips pressed into a line, like he was holding something back. "You chose to believe her because it was easier than facing the signs," I said. "But that choice isn't yours anymore." He shut the folder without looking at me. "What are you planning to do with this?" I exhaled. "There's a party this Friday. I know about it. Amelia sent an invitation to a mutual friend, assuming I was out of the picture." Jared gave a slow, quiet nod. "A celebration for new beginnings, held at Langston Hotel, Grand Oak Room." I paused. "You remember. It's where we booked our 5-year anniversary." Jared closed his eyes. I didn't have to look closely to see the lines on his face had deepened. "Daniel and I will be there, not to ruin anything, but to tell the truth, publicly, to the people you chose to celebrate with. If you want to stop that, there's only one way. Do the right thing yourself." He looked at me then. Not defensive, not combative, just the hollow stare of a man realizing he'd built his life on sand. Died. Daniel met me the day before the party, at my office. He brought all the originals, photos, emails, voice recordings Amelia had sent him, including a late-night voice message. "I don't know what to do. Jared keeps painting this perfect future, and I'm not sure I want to live that way anymore." We printed everything in duplicate. I had a backup copy saved on a USB drive in case we needed to display it on a large screen. Daniel was tense, but he didn't back down. "Are you sure this should happen in front of everyone?" he asked. "I've thought about that," I replied, "but the truth only holds power when it can't be twisted behind closed doors. We're not doing this for revenge. It's for the child. That baby deserves to know who they really are." Friday evening, the Langston Hotel was glowing. I arrived 10 minutes early wearing a square-neck black dress, the same one I wore in my first court hearing years ago. I call it the statement dress. Because every time I put it on I say something most people are too afraid to say out loud. Daniel arrived a few minutes after me. His expression was steady though the nerve still lingered in his eyes. We walked in together, heading straight for the Grand Oak banquet room. Inside, it was exactly what I expected. Wine glasses, laughter, and toasts. No one spoke when Daniel and I entered the room. All eyes turned toward us, surprise sweeping across the room like a current. Conversation stopped mid-sentence, wine glasses froze in mid-air, and glances passed from one table to the next. Jared stood near the podium, having just finished a thank you speech. Beside him, Amelia clung lightly to his arm as if to reinforce her place. She smiled. Until she saw me. Then her smile faltered mid-curve. I walked straight toward them and stopped a few steps away. Daniel stood beside me, calmer than I'd ever seen him. "Thanks for inviting me to the party, Amelia," I said. "I'm here to congratulate you both. But I also brought a gift. Something I think Jared should open before anyone raises another glass." Amelia spoke first, her smile now brittle. "Hazel, this is a private party. If you have something to say, maybe save it for another time." I looked directly at her. "I thought that too. Until I realize what you've done doesn't just affect me, it affects the man standing next to you." Jared turned, his eyes suddenly on edge. Daniel stepped forward. "Amelia, we need to talk. And Jared needs to hear this too." I placed the folder on a nearby table and opened it. "Jared, these documents, messages, photos, recordings, even an ultrasound, they all point to one very likely truth. The baby Amelia's carrying might not be yours." He froze in place. Amelia let out a dry, sharp laugh. "What is this, classic jealousy, Hazel? Or are you trying to play the victim again, Daniel?" Daniel shook his head. "Amelia, you know better than anyone this isn't some story I made up. You're the one who sent me the ultrasound with the note, 'Forehead's totally yours.' You're the one who messaged me at midnight saying you weren't sure if Jared was the father." "That's not true," she snapped. "It was a joke. Daniel, you're twisting everything to suit yourself." I pulled out a printed photo from my phone, the one she had sent Daniel, along with the recording of her voice saying, "Do you want to feel the first kick?" I turned to Jared. "Were you ever invited to her ultrasound appointments?" He slowly shook his head. "She told you the doctor didn't allow guests?" Jared nodded quietly. Daniel murmured, "Hazel, play the video." I turned up the phone speaker, holding it near the mic on the table. Amelia's voice came through, soft, polished, unmistakable. "Jared doesn't suspect anything. He believes it all. I haven't even let him touch my stomach at the appointments. Things are going smoother than I thought." The room held its breath. Amelia gasped. "That's fake. That's not my voice. This is a setup." Jared turned to her. "I gave up Hazel for this. Because you said this was an honest beginning." "I didn't," her voice cracked. "Jared, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. But I love you. I really do." Daniel spoke softly. "You said the same thing to me. Same words. Same tone." Amelia looked at him like he had slapped her. "You're nothing. You were just the backup plan. I chose Jared." I looked down at the folder. "And now you've said it out loud." Jared was no longer standing tall. He took a step back, as if the ground had shifted beneath him. I had never seen his eyes that red, not from anger, but from a collapse he couldn't stop. He turned to Amelia, his voice barely audible. "When were you going to tell me?" There was no answer. A wave of silence moved through the room, then people began leaving. An older couple slipped out first, avoiding eye contact. A group of younger guests at the back quietly stuffed their phones into purses, murmuring polite excuses. Everyone understood. This party had become something else entirely, a public reckoning. Amelia stopped resisting. She lowered her head, grabbed her purse, and walked briskly out of the room. Jared stayed frozen, eyes following her. Then he turned to me. "Here is your full English translation, formatted for natural AI narration and fully aligned with your instructions on tone, currency, measurements, and time expressions." "Thank you," he said, his voice rough. for not letting me live in that illusion any longer. I nodded slightly. I didn't do this for you, I did it for the truth. And for the child. They deserve to grow up knowing the real story. Daniel stood next to me, silent but steady. We didn't win anything. But we were no longer deceived. After Amelia left the party, the air inside the room never quite returned to normal. Jared stood frozen. The remaining guests lingered, partly out of politeness, partly out of curiosity, waiting to see what would happen next. I didn't say anything else. The truth had already been laid out in that room, and there was no need to repeat it. Eventually, Jared turned to me. His eyes were red, no longer sharp with confidence like the man who once led every meeting without hesitation. Hazel, he began, voice on the verge of breaking. I was wrong. About everything. About you, about her, about that so-called new beginning I blindly chased. I looked at him, quietly. I don't know how to make it right, he continued. But if you give me a chance, just one, I'll prove some things can be fixed. I took a deep breath. Not everything needs fixing, Jared. Some things need letting go. I can't let you go, he said quickly. 7 years, Hazel. We were a team. I was foolish, but you know me better than anyone, right? You don't know who I am anymore, I replied. The woman you left 6 months ago isn't here now. She survived. She learned how to breathe again, and she realized her worth doesn't depend on how someone else sees her. Silence. Jared lowered his head, shoulders trembling slightly. It continued, calmly. I'm not saying this to punish you, I just moved on. Moved on? He looked up. You mean someone else? I nodded. We reconnected at a legal conference 3 months ago. His name is Noah Bennett. We went to college together, lost touch for years. Jared seemed stunned. His face looked hollow, as if he'd lost both his direction and his anchor. Do you know what it felt like seeing you walk into that room tonight? He asked hoarsely. I thought you came to destroy the evening, but instead, you saved me from living a lie for the rest of my life. I didn't deny it. I didn't do it for you. I did it for the child and for Daniel. Daniel, still standing at the corner of the room with his hands in his pockets, stepped forward, slow but firm. I'll take responsibility, he said, looking Jared in the eye for the first time. If the baby's mine, I'll step up as a father. No court orders, no paternity test if it's not needed. I'll be there. Jared nodded, no longer defensive. Just a man forced to face the truth too late. I left the party not long after. On the way home, Daniel texted. Thanks for not letting me fall apart alone in that room. I replied, no one deserves to be stuck between truth and a lonely lie. 3 weeks later, Amelia officially left Atlanta and returned to her mother's home in Portland. I heard from an old colleague that she planned to give birth at a small local hospital. Daniel didn't follow her, but he booked a flight to Oregon the week of her due date. He said he couldn't turn his back on his child, even if things hadn't started as planned. I don't hate her, Daniel told me once. I just feel sorry for everyone who got caught in the fallout of her choices. As for Jared, he requested a transfer to the Charlotte branch. In a short email sent to me on the day he moved, he wrote, I'm trying to become a better man, not to win you back, but because I owe that to myself. I didn't respond, but I kept the email, not out of regret, but because I once loved that man and now I hope he can salvage the best parts of who he was. As for me, Noah and I are still getting to know each other. No rush, no weight of expectation. He didn't come to fill a void, but to walk alongside me. On weekends when he brings his daughter from a previous marriage to visit, I feel something soften inside me. Life no longer feels like a rigid blueprint. It's more like jazz, sometimes offbeat, but always room for something real. 2 months after the party at the Langston Hotel, I got a message from Daniel. She's here. Her name is Lily. She's got my jawline, cries like no one else. I smiled reading it, not because it was a perfect ending, but because in all that chaos something still managed to grow. A child born out of disorder, but deserving of a gentler start. Daniel sent a photo. Lily curled in a knitted blanket, eyes shut, lips slightly curled as if dreaming of a world not yet cracked. He didn't need to say it. I knew he would stay. Not because of obligation, but because something deeper had anchored him. He flew to Portland as soon as the hospital called. He didn't stay with Amelia, but he signed the birth certificate. I knew that wasn't easy. But he chose what was right, not what was convenient. Jared left Atlanta. I haven't heard anything since, only that he's trying to rediscover himself in a city where no one knows him as someone's husband or father. Sometimes distance is the only space, wide enough to hold what's left. My life now looks nothing like the woman who once sat in a dark kitchen waiting for a text that never came. I wake earlier, eat breakfast slower, and no longer force myself to be strong all the time. Noah, the man I once called the missed turn, has become my real companion. We're not rushing, not covering cracks with new paint. Every conversation, every dinner we cook, every weekend with his daughter at the park reminds me, love doesn't blind you, it illuminates. We're planning a small backyard wedding, no bridesmaids, no stage, just a few friends, some candles, and a quiet promise. I used to think happiness was a destination. Now I know, it's something we learn to build, day by day, even when your hands are still shaking and your heart still remembers pain. People often ask, Hazel, if you could go back, would you choose a different path? The answer is no. I don't regret loving Jared. I don't regret trusting him. Because without those years, I wouldn't have had the courage to face the truth, or the strength to rise from heartbreak without becoming hardened. This isn't a revenge story. I didn't stand up to expose someone just to make them hurt like I did. I did it because truth deserves to exist outside whispered corners. I didn't survive to prove anything to the world. I survived because I deserve to live a life I choose for myself. And if you've made it this far, if you're in the middle of betrayal, doubt, or loss, I don't have perfect answers, but I do have this. Truth, as brutal as it is always the beginning of freedom. Last night, while watering the garden, I caught a blurry glimpse of myself in the window pane. No chaos, no shields, no need to pretend to be anyone else. Just a woman, standing in her own garden, knowing exactly what to keep and what she's finally ready to release. No need to say it out loud, some things are already clear enough. Hazel's story isn't just about overcoming betrayal. It's a reminder that truth, even when painful, is where freedom begins. In real life, we all face collapses that feel impossible to recover from. But how we respond, how we listen to ourselves and move forward with grace, defines who we become. Not the one left behind, but the one who stood up and rewrote her story, on her own terms. What do you think about Hazel's journey and the choices she made? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt, meaningful stories about life, love, and family.